solve another one of these killer Sudoku puzzles, this time on expert difficulty. I'm going to start by filling out the easy low-hanging fruit here, so 5 and 2. It looks like there's not a ton of low-hanging fruit items that I can see. Actually, I should be able to solve for this one, so 16 plus 15 is 31, plus 9 is 39, which leaves 5, so that means I can put a 5 in here. This will have to be a 3. We also have this square here, so 7 plus 17 is 24, plus 11, 35, plus 13 is 48, so that means that this one will need to be a 3. Looks like this one we can also solve for, because 20 plus 14 is 34, plus 15 is 49, plus 3 is 52. Subtract 45, you get 7. Let's look around a little bit here now. So I can't solve for these two, but I can see what these two squares are going to add up to by taking the sum of the first two columns and then subtracting 90 from that sum. So we have 31 plus 7, 38, 45, 52, 62, 73, 82, 92, 102, 104. So that means these two have to add up to 14, and then we have a 5 here. So it can't be a 9 and a 5, so it has to be an 8 and a 6. And then we have a 7 here, so that means that this can't be a 7 and a 9, or a 7 and an 8, so this has to be a 6 right here, and this one will have to be an 8, making this one a 9. We also know that these will need to be a 3 and a 4, so we can pop a 3 right here, and then we can also add a 3 up here. I think that's all we can do with 3s for now. I'll slot a 6 in here, and then we can also put a 4 in right there. Nice. So I think the other numbers in here are going to be 1, 7, and 8. So let me fill those out real quick. Oops. All right, just kind of going through now to see what else I can figure out. Looks like these two need to add up to 10. So this will have to be a 1 and a 9, it looks like. So let me mark that in as well. And then the rest for down here are going to be, it looks like 4 and 7. We can't have a 4 in this space, so that means this one will need to be the 4 down here. And then we can add a 7 up here. And then we can find the pair here, so this will be an 8. We also know that this square can't be an 8, and we know that there's going to be an 8 up here. So because an 8 can't be here or here, it'll have to be right here. And then get the easy 6 right there. We can mark this square up a little bit more to make it an 8 and a 9, or a 5 and a 9, excuse me. We also know because there's a 5 and a 9 in these two spaces, this will have to be a 4 and an 8 over here. And there's already an 8 in this square, actually. So let's go ahead and make this one a 4. And then this one can pair it up to make 8. Some obvious ones down here. This will need to be a 1 and a 3, and we got a 3 in the upper right. So a 3 will go in here. These are a 1 and a 2, so this needs to be a 3. And then, yeah, this is going to be a 1 right here. We have a 1 right there. Another 1 up here. We'll have a 2. I don't think I see anything else. It looks like these two will have to be, they can't be a 3 and a 9 or a 4 and an 8, so it has to be a 5 and a 7. We got a 5 somewhere in here. So let's make this 7. And then this one can be 5. We also know that these two squares will need to add up to 8, and they will need to be a 2 and a 6, since they can't be 1 and 7 or 3 and 5. And so let me just mark those in for later. So what's left here is 5 and 9, meaning this square right here will have to be a 5. And then we got the 9 right here. We also, just looking at these, we already have a 1 and a 2 in this column, which means that the 2 to add up to 7 are going to be 3 and 4. Now that we fill those in, we can figure out what this square is going to be, because we know it can't be 1, 2, 3, 4, so it's going to have to be 5. Then we got a 6 over here. We can mark these to be a 2 and a 7. So we got that figured out partially. I think we might be able to figure out these two. We already have a 7 right here, which means that this will add up to 13. It can't be a 4 and a 9 since we have a 4 here. It can't be a 6 and a 7 since we have a 7 here. So it's going to have to be a 5 and an 8. We have a 5 up there, so this will have to be a 5. Oops. Right here. And then up here will be that 8. Which means that these two squares right here will need to be a 6 and a 9, since we just added an 8 into this 3 by 3 square. So 6 and 9. Trying to just take a quick scan to see if there's anything obvious. Oh, it looks like we can actually solve for this square right here. If we add up the 20 plus what is left in this bottom right hand box, so it's going to be 20 plus 12 plus 8, which is 40, plus 5, 45, and then another 4 for 49, making this a 4. And then the rest of these two items to add up to 20 are going to have to be a 9 and a 7, so we can solve for that as well. So we got a 9, and then we can punch in that 7. What we have left is 2, 4, 6. And doesn't look like we can solve for that, but let me just mark this up real quick. And then I may as well fill in the three numbers that are going to have to add up to 15 here, which it looks like is going to be 2, 5, and 8. So we have a 5 there, so 2, 8, 2, 5, 2, 5, 8. Oh, and I forgot that we can solve for this one as well. Now that we have this 4, since it's 4 plus 10, 14 plus 19, 33 plus 11, 44, meaning that we will need a 1 here to make the row add up to 45. So we got a 1 and then the 9 to finish that off. So now I'm trying to think a little more, think a little harder. Taking a quick peek at everything. I mean, I think it's always helpful to start filling out whatever I can fill out. I think maybe I'll start at the top here since we're just missing 3 across the top here. It's 1, 2, and... or wait. Oh, I filled in a 7 here, and it looks like this can't be a 7. So it needs to be a 1. I think that's maybe a good spot to start with everything around here. So then a 1 is going to have to be in these 2 boxes here, which means it's also going to have to be in these 2 boxes, and it can't be in this one. So it's going to have to be in that one. So that was a good 1 to get out of the way. And then this 11, it can't be a 5 and a 6, can't be a 7 and a 4, can't be an 8 and a 3. So it's going to have to be a 9 and a 2, and we already have 9 in this row. So we need to fill in a 2 there. We can also fill in a 2 up here. And then make this a 9. Make that a 9. So I think that might have kind of uncorked things, which is nice. Yeah, we have another 8 over here. We know that it can't be an 8 and a 2 in these 2, so we'll have to have an 8 up here also. Just trying to fill in all the 8s. It's always nice to finish out a number. And maybe move on to 7, see if there's anything obvious there. It looks like not. This one needs to be a 4 though. And we get a 4 up here. And a 4 right there. Let's look at the 6s a little bit. Can't quite finish those out. This one's going to be a 1. 1, 1. That's 8 for 1s. I'll just move on to 5s. That's it for 5s. 2 and a 2. Another 2. Another 2. Then we got 7. It looks like this will need to be a 7. This will have to be a 7. And 1 more right there. Got a 4 here. And a 4 there. 3. Obviously, it's quite a bit easier at this point. Miss 1, 3. Moving on to the 6s. Getting that last 9. Or last couple 9s. And then just 1 more for 2. So yeah, that's, looks like I did it in about 15 minutes, not too hard. And yeah, this will be the last square. So that's my overall thought process for going through this. And thank you for watching.